There we go. Hey, gang, welcome to uh, Hasidus for non-Jews, or Lessons in Tanya for non-Jews, where we gear it towards non-Jews as much as we can. A lot of good questions, on a lot of good uh, axioms we run across in Torah. So we finished chapter 36 last week in Lessons in Tanya, which is a commentary on the Tanya by the Alter Rebbe. And we're going to start chapter 37 this week. In the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe explained that the statement of the sages that God desired an abode in the lower realms refers to our physical world. This is the lowest of worlds in terms of the degree of revelation of the divine creative power. It is hidden in this world as it is in no other world. God desired precisely this world, pervaded as it is with doubled and redoubled darkness, as his abode, where his presence would ultimately be revealed to a greater degree than it is revealed in the higher worlds, without any concealing garments whatsoever. This will come to pass in the Messianic era, the period for which the world was originally created, when godliness will be manifest throughout the world, so that all the nations on earth will experience divine revelation. Very important for the Motalam, anybody. It's as important for everyone. But it will this time will be very important for the Motalam, who were originally completely concealed from their perspective. But things are going to shine so bright that things will be even revealed to them, so much so that it says they will hide in the rocks. Um, Now, this ultimate perfection of the Messianic era and the time of the resurrection of the dead, meaning the revelation of the Ein Sof light, the Or Ein Sof in this physical world, is dependent on our actions and divine service throughout the period of exile. Unlike the aforementioned revelation at Sinai, which was initiated by God. For it is the mitzvah itself that causes, i.e., creates its reward. Excuse me. The Rebbe notes, unlike, for example, the wages paid by the owner of a field to the laborer who plows and plants it, where the laborer does not create the money he is paid, a mitzvah actually creates its own reward. So it's not, yeah, I summed it up pretty good. By performing the mitzvah, man draws the revelation of the blessed Or Ein Sof, the Ein Sof light, from above downward, to be clothed in the physicality of this world. This is very important. By performing the mitzvah, in any mitzvahs, like, because the non-Jews can even perform some, at least some mitzvot. They have potential to do more, but we got, it's like baby steps, right? By performing the mitzvah, man draws down the revelation of the Or Ein Sof, the blessed Ein Sof light, from above downward to be clothed in the physicality of this world. So when you do a mitzvah, you are enclothing that light into this world, i.e., in an object which had heretofore been under the dominion, this is very important, of the Klipat Nogah, and had received its vitality from the Klipa. So things that are Klipat Nogah are things of potentiality. They have an element of good to them, but they also have bad surrounding them, so to speak. Through a mitzvah, you unlock that light. So, and that's with all kinds of mitzvot. So with the negative mitzvahs that don't, uh, when you're doing the do nots, you are not giving negative energy, or you're not getting it, excuse me, you're not giving energy to the negative forces. When you're doing a positive mitzvah, you are unlocking that light from the vitality from the realm of the klipa. So you're like uplifting it. You're extracting it. You're sifting it. You're refining it. And it's only through the Torah mitzvahs that humanity can do those things. And in order to do that, you have to have bittul. Um, in other words, to do the will of Hashem, you have to shift your will and say, "Hey, Hashem, I accept your will." You have to make your will His will. Um,
James, I have a question, please.
yeah, go ahead, Dixie.
How do we know what his will is? There's so much deception. So I don't know if I can make myself clear.
That's a
But
good question.
I mean, how are we positive that what I am doing is his will? Because sometimes I
Hmm.
have done things that I thought was his will and they turn out really bad.
Really bad, right? For me personally, and I can really only talk about me. Um, when I was interested in Torah, and this was back because how did I get interested in Torah? I got interested in Torah because 25 whatever years ago, I was like 19, 20. I started to think because I was in Christianity and I couldn't figure Christianity out totally. And I started to come to the conclusion that, well, Jesus wanted me to keep the Torah or whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do all 613 mitzvahs and I'm just going to become Jewish or whatever. And in my ignorance, that was way back a long time ago. So I started to study the Torah and I started to see like, oh, there's all these different mitzvahs and they're very stringent and strict, and I didn't know where to start. And then I came across this whole concept of Gerus and Gertoshav, and I started to study the seven. And so I kept on. I felt that those were important, and turns out it was actually a good path. It was the right thing to start with the seven. So you want to start very simply, and then I started to learn what Avodah Zarah was, and I started to learn about who Messiah was, and what the Messiah is going to actually come and do. So the Mashiach is going to have a certain function. He has certain um, properties, and Yisrael is going to be able to say, this person is not Mashiach, or maybe he's a potential Mashiach, or he is the Mashiach. And so then I was able to, through my learning of Torah, through the seven and through things about Mashiach and the laws of Navim, about prophets, um, I started to reevaluate the axioms that I assumed when it came to Christianity, and I started to reevaluate those axioms. And so I just started to look at things differently. My point is, through my own personal like walk, I can confidently say that the seven are the perfect place to start, particularly Avodah Zarah, not doing Avodah Zarah, not doing strange worship, and really just studying those laws and details. And you start to branch out. It's kind of like reaching and grasping, climbing a mountain. You're going to find good footholds and you're going to find bad footholds. And for me, starting deeply in the seven are good footholds because those things, sorry, one of my kids was coughing. Want to make sure they're okay. Um, you have seven. This is getting kind of Kabbalistic, kind of esoteric, but you have basically seven externalities, external parts to your body. And the seven, well, this actually goes with what Russell was talking about earlier, the Ginsburg book on Kabbalah for the seven. That goes into great detail about what I'm talking about. And as that is, not only is there the seven emotive attributes and the lower seven of the Sephirot, but even externally, You have that. So when you are at least doing those seven and you're studying in those seven and trying to do them as best as you can, you're starting to develop your appendages, so to speak, spiritually and physically, but you're trying to find the how to grasp things and how to remain anchored while you're walking on this walk. And so for me personally, that's how I started with the seven and just studying, study. Um, because when you're studying, you're also not getting into trouble because you're physically involving your very whole being into studying. You're involving your intellect most of all, your seichel, which is one of the garments, right? And you're involving speech because Torah study is considered speech because you're supposed to be speaking Torah while you're studying. And then third, you're not doing anything else. You're physically either in a chair or wherever, you're not doing something else. So you're fully engaged. So like right there, you can say, okay, I am oisek. I am deeply involved in Torah study. And that's a start. Like now you can do A/B testing. Okay, I'm doing Torah and I'm not doing B. I'm doing Torah, I'm doing something A, and I know I'm doing this, and therefore I'm not doing B. So you can start doing this A/B testing throughout your life. Same thing with tzedakah. Oh, I'm giving tzedakah, and therefore I know I'm not doing B. Um, and you might say, like, for instance, I might say, oh, I gave tzedakah to the wrong person or whatever. What am I going to do? I'm going to learn about why I did it wrong. And I'm going to go to the Torah and again study Torah. And it's this repetition, this revolution of refinement that's what it is. And that's life. That is literally um, like my time here. Like I go to work and like, why do I go to work? It's like I go to work so I can be with you guys and I can study Torah. I can study Torah with my family and my kids. And that's like the pinnacle for me on what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I don't, I'm lost. Like I physically am either depressed or lost or whatever, which kind of brought me to Torah. That's what it's that again, koach ma, having the question of what and why. As a child, I wanted to know the right thing to do. I wanted to know Hashem, even though I didn't call Hashem Hashem then. But I wanted to know God. I wanted to know what to do. And that is a process. And you have to see that that is a process and that's pro progress. So, does that mean, you know, I'm going to become a tzaddik and I'm going to do all Taryag mitzvahs one day and do all this stuff? No, it means I'm making progress, and I want to just make sure that I'm at least making some progress somewhere. And I don't have to become some kind of like um, righteous Sadiq type person. I just want to do better than um, what I was before. And but through that A/B testing and just studying Torah and that's the key of what I really want to impress on people, not so much in this class because you guys have heard it from me so much. But just that non-Jews can study Torah. And we know affirmatively that at least bare minimum you can be oisek in the Sheva mitzvot, the seven commandments that were given to Noah. You can be oisek. You can truly unite with the will of Hashem by studying the Torah. The Torah is the enclosed wisdom of Hashem, and when you are oisek in Torah, and this is very important for Lisa because I don't think we've talked about this in front of Lisa, but when you're oisek in Torah, when you're deeply involved in Torah, you are uniting. You are going past the enclothing, and you are uniting with the will of Hashem. Your will, your seichel, your brain is uniting with the brain of Hashem when you are studying Torah, when you are deeply in studying Torah. Not lamed, not a cursory, just a carefree study, but you're really wanting to know. You're asking the question, what? You have bittul and you're deeply involved in Torah study. And it's like you're transplanted into a different place, maybe, it feels that way. You are uniting. You're not physically here, so to speak. I mean, you are, but you're not, you know, completely there. Why? Because your mind is uniting with Hashem. You're going beyond the klipot, the klipotic forces of this world, and you are breaking through, so to speak, on a like a multi-dimensional level. I'm not trying to say anything like new agey or anything weird. It's just it literally is. That's what it is. You are in your headspace uniting with Hashem, His mind, and those veils are being lifted when you're studying Torah. So it's a wonderful place to be. Highly recommend it, and anybody can do it, particularly if you're studying the seven. Even an idolater, if he or she wants to completely immerse themselves in Torah study for the sake of heaven and not how to do avodah zarah anymore, then by all means, that's a huge place to be. The Talmud says that that person is like a high priest. If they're trying to come out of avodah zarah, they're learning about avodah zarah in the Torah, and they're like, oh, I really want to know what they have bittul, an element of bittul, I should say. They are really trying to figure out how not to do avodah zarah or what is avodah zarah or anything that is related to avodah zarah in the Torah. That's excellent. That person, that is like the high priest. That is a huge place to be. Leave that person alone and let them study. Like, go ask them if they want a tea, and some biscuits or something. Like, make sure that they are studying, because that is such a precious place for that human soul to be. Um, it's so important. So yeah, keep doing that. Those kinds of things. And I think um, over the years, uh, that it just gets better and better. Um, so yeah, keep studying. Like, yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna make mistakes, but it's the questions, it's the realization that, hey, I think I might have made a mistake. Guess what? You're going to go to the Torah, or you're going to maybe ask somebody who does know. You're going to ask a rabbi, right? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? What should I have done? And it's that question of what, the koach ma, that helps you gain the wisdom. And when you increase in wisdom, you are increasing your relationship from your perspective with Hashem. You're helping to unify the name. And that's totally what we're meant to do. That is literally our role here, is to do Torah and mitzvahs and revealing godliness. Because when you're studying Torah, when you're uniting and creating that wisdom, you are bringing down the name. You are unifying these upper worlds with the lower worlds. You're unifying the name, which is a mitzvah in itself. And oh, we lost Lisa. Maybe she had to go. But this is a so yeah, totally. It's a huge process. I hope I didn't offend. So, uh, was it something I said? No, I think she's probably dropped. So yeah, just keep it up. Whatever you're doing, whatever
You
you're.
might have lost her, James, on clipotic.
Oh, do you think she dropped on that?
No,
Oh, okay.
no,
Oh, okay.
I've been able to stop thinking about it since you said it, though. I
Oh,
don't.
that's hilarious.
I've been worried about everything that's clipotic.
Clepothic, yeah,
That is a good word, clipotic.
yeah. So I'm kind of gullible. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I have a hard time with
It
sarcasm.
might be part of the storms that are going through.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we've been facing some storms this spring. I don't. It hasn't been this stormy in quite a few years. Okay. Um. Yeah. So man, the Alter Rebbe's just going point for point. Every sentence is he's going over some huge things. So, when you do mitzvahs, you are enclothing that light into physicality, which is actually revealing godliness, because you're This world is still an enclothing, but you're putting it on the right clothes, so to speak, of that object. You're putting it where it needs to be. It's kind of like you know how they have animals that just they would not survive on their own. You got cows or they need to be milked. Like if you do not milk a milk cow, it will get sick. It will get diseased. So you have to elevate animals and everything in this world to do what it is that they need to be doing through the Torah. Oh, here we go. She's here. And how do we know what to do through the Torah and mitzvahs? Does that mean you're going to have to know every single thing? No, particularly for non-Jews. I mean, that would be so overwhelming. Um, but nonetheless, just keep studying, right? There's so many things to learn. And it's said that B'nai Noach, I remember Rabbi Katz found this somewhere, but B'nai Noach, it's like a midrash. B'nai Noach have clubs for hands. Why clubs? Because if you put your hand in a fist, you don't have any dexterity in your using your fingers. It requires fingers to have a good amount of dexterity. And so what are your fingers? Your fingers actually have internal parts too. They're part of the 613. But if you fold your hands and you can't use your fingers, well, then you cannot do refined work. You can't do fine art. You can't do things that require the dexterity, and therefore you're not using all 613 parts. But in a very coarse manner, you can still do things. Like, for instance, that's what the seven are. They're very coarse. They're not refined. Well, how do you refine? You learn. You got to learn. And that's where we are. So, Baruch Hashem. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. That's where we need to be. Like the Talmud says, even an akun, like even an idolater, if they're being oisek in the Torah, they are like a high priest. They're okay. So, an object which has therefore been under the dominion of the klipat noga, which is a klipa that has an element of goodness to it. It has received its vitality from this klipa, namely all pure and permissible objects with which the act of the mitzvah is performed. So permissible things, the positive commandments, those deal with things, items, animal lives, animal souls. Those stem from the klipat noga. Here's the cool thing. Yisrael, their animal souls stem from this klipat noga as well. So they have an element of goodness to them where they can get rid of the klipa and extract the goodness to where it needs to go. Here's the second really cool thing that most people don't know is that Hasidei Umot Ha'olam, the basically good non-Jews, but the kind ones of the peoples of the world, or the kind ones of the peoples of the concealment, they also stem from this klipat noga. This is very, very, very important, particularly for non-Jews. You're interacting with family members, loved ones, relatives, friends, whatever. They they could be stemming from this klipat noga, um, which has an element of goodness. They do things out of true kindness, out of true desire for you to be successful or live or heal or whatever. They would rather you not need them. They would rather you not need their help. They just want to see you succeed for true goodness. Those are souls that emanate from Klipat Noga, and those are souls that can be elevated. It is not the end all. A lot of people think that's the end all be all. It is not. That just literally means that that person can be elevated even more. They receive a portion of the world to come, and they do that through chesed, through kindness. That's why they're called Hasidei, the kind ones. namely all pure permissible objects with which an act of the mitzvah is performed, the positive mitzvah. By performing the mitzvah, man draws the Ein Sof light upon the object with which is performed. A good example is parchment paper. It's animal skin that has been dried and processed a certain way that can be used as parchment, and letters can be inked into them, and it can be created into a Torah scroll as a positive mitzvah. So the hide of that animal is used. Every single bit of that animal is being used in some way to be elevated. Um, the gall can be used for ink to write the Torah scroll. The skin, all these different varying things. Sounds a little more, but I understand. But nonetheless, those animals, if they weren't used, they would have died on their own and they would not be elevated. They would have actually been, as a metaphorical, but also a real example, they would have been used to feed the souls from the klipa. In other words, a coyote or a wolf, um, they would have increased in numbers. That is in klipa, the gimel klipot tameot, the three completely impure klipot. That would be an example of the souls of like a coyote or a wolf, for example. They are made to do those kinds of things. And as human beings, we can be through like animal husbandry, particularly the Torah, right? But just as an example, the good farming practices, animal husbandry, and taking care of animals and using them in the proper way, protecting them in the proper way, uh, so that they don't give the energy to the impure forces. They don't, you know, a cow wanders into the middle of the forest and gets eaten by a wolf. As a good human, we try to prevent. Now, those accidents happen and things, yes, but we try to prevent those things from happening. And if you live on a homestead or a farm, that is an ongoing battle. It's sad when you have these pests, but nonetheless, you have to protect the animal souls that come from this klipat noga. Our chickens are a good example. Like we have raccoons. I'm going to choose the animals that come from klipat noga over the animals that come from the three completely impure klipot. It's just a part of
Would
it.
be the raccoons,
I'm sorry.
which would be raccoons.
Yeah, raccoons, like they look cute and cuddly. Like I wish they could be productive and in a different way, but they eat my chickens. They eat our chickens. So that's the whole world, all of creation. Uh, we see the Torah in all of creation. And so, these animal souls, these are real things. They are the animal souls that enliven the bodies of the animals around us, including our own bodies. So it's a real thing. And when you start to look at it that way, you start to see the wisdom in all of creation. And you start to be able to ask what? Ma. And then you gain koachma, you gain chochma, you gain a little bit of wisdom. How do I deal with these pests that are on my farm? How do I, get rid of pests? When can I kill pests? When should I trap pests? What happens when they're in my house? What happens when they're just on the farm? Um, these are excellent questions, and in life, I just don't get it right all the time. But when I don't get it right or something happens, what do? I ask somebody who I think knows, like a rabbi, or read about it in the Torah. And I try my best. But going back to Dixie's good question earlier. But all this does relate. This all relates to physicality, things that you can practice in the world of Asiya, in the world here in action. Um, this isn't just like high esoteric wisdom. These are fundamental things. Oh, Look at this. I'm sitting here going on a rant, and the Alter Rebbe's like, "Hey, James, I already did it." For example, the parchment of the tefillin, mezuzah, and the Sefer Torah, which must be made of the skins of permissible kosher animals. Permissible are things that are from the klipat nogah, the klipa that contains an element of goodness in them. As our sages state, for the work of heaven, i.e., mitzvah objects, only that which is pure and permissible to eat may be used. Now you can also use these things improperly. You can use permissible things improperly. So it's very important that you follow Torah. You studied Torah to know what to do with those things as best as you can. I mean, as a non-Jew, don't get bent out of shape that you don't know everything. That's one thing because if not, you can get into depression, basically. Don't do that to yourself. Give yourself some grace. There's only so many hours in the day. You got to go to bed, and tomorrow's a new day. Um, so don't be hard on yourself. Don't get depressed that you don't know everything in relationship to your life in Torah. Just make progress, right? Just try and make progress. That's what the Alter Rebbe said. And like what it was, a chapter 5 or 6. He said, to each everybody's ability, just do your utmost. Everybody's going to be a little different. Everybody's going to have their own abilities, their own uh, uh, aptitude. The parchment derived from such animals is, however, under the dominion of the klipat noga until one uses it in a mitzvah for tefillin, etc. When the mitzvah draws upon the parchment a revelation of the Ein Sof light. So this is the revelation of the Ein Sof light. So the Ein Sof light is enclothing itself in the thing that is deriving from the klipat noga. You as a human being are revealing godliness using the proper garments that he wants you to use here in the world of Asiya. And maybe there's a non-Jew out there that's listening and say, well, that does that mean I got to get tefillin then? That does not mean you have to get tefillin. You can do things such as tzedakah, just doing acts of goodness and kind deeds. Things like tefillin, he's talking, the Alter Rebbe and the commentator here are talking, this is pertaining to Yisrael. And tefillin is something that requires someone to know uh, about the name of Hashem and unifying Hashem and not doing avodah zarah. Um, and That's off the top of my head. Um, so doesn't mean you have to do all 613 starting the 7 if you don't know where to start. Starting the Sheva Mitzvot Ben Enoch, the 7 laws that were given to the children of Noah. And then you may, once you get those down and you know what it is, then you can progress, it seems to me. But you have to study those things. Similarly, an etrog, which is not orla, the forbidden fruit of a tree's first 3 harvests. Interesting. I didn't know that. In reference to his earlier stipulation that an esrog not be orla and that charity be honestly acquired, the Alter Rebbe notes for orla. So orla is another way of orla could be called foreskin. It's just the covering. It's type of physical klipa that we see. For orla is of the 3 completely unclean klipot, the shalosh klipot atameo, the 3. Sometimes I say, a lot of times I say gimel, because I forget that 3 can be said in shlosh. But anyways, the orlas of the 3 completely unclean klipot that can never ascend into holiness. Okay, the klipot can never ascend into holiness, as is written in the Etz Chaim. Thus, fruit which is orla, deriving its vitality from these klipot, cannot be elevated by having a mitzvah performed with it. And similarly, any mitzvah whose performance involves a transgression. So klipot are the 3 completely impure klipot. Those are shaykh to the side of Gevura and the side of the negative commandments, the don'ts. They are completely impure and they can't have their negative, they cannot have goodness extracted from them, to my knowledge. Not, I guess not humanly possible, I don't think. I haven't come across Torah that explicitly talks about what I just said, so I'm a little hesitant to say. But since the sinful act receives its vitality from the three completely unclean klipot, the resulting mitzvah cannot elevate it. Or money given to charity that has not been acquired through theft and their like. Either other physical objects used in performing a mitzvah, all of which were previously in the realm of klipot nogah, and as the Alter Rebbe will conclude presently, are now merged into the divine will by serving the purpose of a mitzvah. So we have the will of Hashem, we have positive mitzvot, and how you as a human being can unlock things from Klipot Noga, including yourself. Because you have to remember that if you're doing things for true kindness, if you're really seeking Hashem and you're uniting with Hashem, then your soul is from this Klipot Noga. Um, so you can start doing these things if that's what you think. You got to have humility, and it also says to view yourself as wicked. Take an oath to be righteous, but view yourself as wicked or as wicked, which is a whole another thing in itself that the Alter Rebbe's talked about that we went over before. When performed, however, with pure and permissible objects, the mitzvah elevates those objects from klipot noga to holiness, to be united with the Ein Sof light, as the Alter Rebbe continues. So klipa cannot fully, from our perspectives, unite with Hashem. We have to get rid of the klipa.
Hey, James, it seems like the material you're using is not going along with the book.
Uh-oh, what did I do? What did I do wrong?
No, the book has like another paragraph to it.
Oh, you're the physical book?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I see. Yeah, sometimes they change things. I didn't know it was that major though.
Yeah, I keep
Oh.
thinking, well, he's skipping things, but
Well, when he skips it, read it in.
okay, well.
Yeah, do you have something that you could share with the rest of the class? No, seriously though, is there something that you think would be good to interject or
Well, it's the text of the book that you're missing.
But which should be just exactly what that is, but
yeah.
it's not always exactly like that.
Are you
Well,
sure
the
it's
paragraph.
lessons in Tanya? It's the same thing you've been reading, not like Steinschultz?
No,
No,
it's book two.
Hmm.
it's the same. It's the same book.
Mm-hmm. But anyway,
Okay. That's good to know. And if you guys know the print, the year that book that you guys have was printed, I'd appreciate knowing. It does not a huge deal. I mean,
okay.
um, but yeah, I wondered.
It goes into a little more depth here in this paragraph right before where that is when we perform. However, okay, talk about this you're in your square boxes.
Yeah, why is this shaded gray?
Well, it's shaded gray in the book, but see, then the book does not have, or the money given to charity has been required by theft, or like that. That's not in the book.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's interesting.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Hmm.
But I think that's very interesting. Going back up here to the Ithrop, that it
Yes, I didn't know that.
that yeah, I didn't either because I always thought that that it had to be, the fourth year or whatever.
Yeah, that's got to have a deeper meaning, of course, which is very
Mhm.
interesting.
But anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you don't have to apologize. I appreciate that. Yeah. Um, Now that one fulfills God's commandments, the mitzvot of Hashem, and will, the ratso no, with these objects, so they do Hashem's mitzvahs and will, the vitality within them ascends and is dissolved and absorbed into the blessed Ein Sof, which is his will that is clothed in the mitzvot. So we're talking about objects here, but if our own animal souls can be derived from Klipat no God, just like these other objects of mitzvot are from Klipat no God, this is a good example of bittul, the process of bittul and what happens. In other words, why does a religious Jew look the way he does to you? Does he look holy? What about it is awe-inspiring in a lot of cases, right? It's because if they're doing mitzvahs, right, they are bringing, bringing down is the right word, but they're being absorbed into this Ein Sof light. How? Through bittul. They initially have bittul, and then they take the will of Hashem, which is his mitzvot, and they do the Torah and mitzvahs, and they reveal godliness. How did they do that? By being absorbed in the Ein Sof light, the Or Ein Sof, which is the light from the Ein Sof, which is his will that is clothed in the mitzvahs, the divine will that each mitzvah represents. So this is very, very, very important to understand how everything can be unified with Hashem. From our perspective, through the human perspective, it's through Torah and mitzvot, through our 613 internalities, the 613 internal parts of our body that are have a conduit that are connected with all 613 commandments, the mitzvot that are in the Torah. For in a mitzvah, there is no concealment of the countenance. So there's no concealment of the faces whatsoever. There's no concealment of the countenance whatsoever to hide his light. So the nations can only get up to his face. And this is why, there are a lot of good things about Christianity. So I don't want to really knock Christianity here, but that's why Christianity has such a barrier when it comes to, it's this and that in the flesh, right? They have a hard time because of they don't have the bittul to Hashem to go past it. That they only see physicality, they only see his face, so to speak. They only see Jesus or whatever, and it's like it's a thing. It's like a stumbling block, and it's not gonna you're not gonna get past any of Avodah is not gonna get past this face.
James, that was really good. Um, they can only see physicality. They
Right,
think they're seeing spirituality,
right,
but they are not.
right, and that's why it's such a big stumbling block is because it's the concept of theology of, well, he had to come here, he had to come down, and there had to be the sacrifice and all these things. They have to they have to have him come into physicality. Um, the problem with that is it becomes a stumbling block because now they that's all they see, and that's a big problem. And so on one level, and this is the concept. This is I man going on a bit of a tangent here. It's the concept of the Nehushtan, the Nehushtan, the bronze serpent that Moshe made. It has the same gematria as Mashiach, and the problem is that Christianity, no, excuse me, the good aspect of Christianity is that it brings people to the idea of God. Like it brings people away from the very unrefined and very harsh versions of Avodah Zarah. Um, and it brings them into a concept of God, but it becomes a stumbling block in the fact that, like I just said, it becomes a physical thing. And the whole concept of the Nehushtan, what happened with the Nehushtan, very similar. It's the same. Um, is ideologue the same? Is that the right word to use? It's the same analogy, which is the Nehushtan helped people see past the Satan, and it made them aware of godliness. However, it can also be used in Avodah Zarah, which is what happened with the Nehushtan, which is King Hezekiah had to destroy. Why did King Hezekiah had to destroy the Nehushtan? Because people were doing Avodah Zarah. They were doing strange worship with the Nehushtan. And so the Nehushtan is Metatronic in a way. It is Metatronic. Like it can help people or it can hinder people. It can be a curse or a blessing. Like for me personally, I think it was a blessing uh, growing up the way I was raised, even though like um, it really is momish, uh, bowing down to idols and the like, but it helps open me up to a God consciousness or a concept, a consciousness that there is a God, that there is a Ma. It helped me ask the question of Ma, but at the same time, it can trap people in it. And so I forget where I was going with this, but you have to be bittul to.
Can you define Houston
Oh, the
more?
Nehushtan, the Nachash. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so when Moshe and the Israelites were in the desert, some of the people of Israel or the people, I don't know if it was Israel or if it was called the Am Haaretz, the people of the land or the people. But some of the people fell away. They got bitten by the fiery serpents, and you can translate that as you want, so the seraphim. But to heal them, Moshe made a bronze Nachash, a bronze serpent, as it's translated. Nachash and Mashiach have the same gematria. Excuse me, I think I said Nehushtan had the same gematria as Mashiach, but that's
Yes.
wrong. It's Nachash. Nachash and Mashiach have the same gematria. So the Nehushtan is actually a type of Nachash, and they share the same. Nehushtan has the same root word as Nachash. A snake, let's put it this way: a serpent, a snake has the ability to make you very sick through venom. It can inject venom um, into you, make you sick. To help cure that, you can use venom, however, from the snake to create anti-venom. So the thing that made you sick can also be used to cure. And this is kind of a concept just without any kind with any kind of avodah zarah. Um, it can open you up to spirituality. It can open you up to a like a God type consciousness, but it can also entrap you in there and stop you, prevent you from keep asking the questions of ma, of what, and you can get stopped up in trying to develop wisdom. You become oh, what is it? Arrested in your development. So it's a big problem. Um, so Christianity, unfortunately, is kind of like the pinnacle of that. Christianity is the pinnacle of Nachash worship, Nehushtan worship. And it's even written in the Christian New Testament that it's said that Jesus said that I am like the Nehushtan that Moshe lifted up. Um, and so when you see that, then it's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on now. But most people, I hate to say it, but most people don't see it. And what happens is they start doing avodah zarah with it. Just like I said earlier, like Christianity helped get me to Torah, actual Torah. And so, you know, it can become an arrested development for people. And but the truth is, here's the real truth, because people say, well, that means Christianity is like a good thing. The truth is the whole world is like that. The whole world is a exhibit, how was it when you bring someone to a judge? Not example, not an exhibit, but a evidence. The whole world is evident of Hashem in this way. It's just that we're so trapped up in the lies of the world, because it says this world is full of lies. We're so trapped up in the lies that we can't see past it sometimes. And we think that this world is what it is. And that's not true at all. The whole purpose of this world is to reveal godliness, because Hashem is concealed from our perspective within the world. And when he conceals himself, all we see are the lights and the sounds and the smells, and we just get so overwhelmed. Just like it says in Nida 30b, that when we're born, we forget everything. We forget the Torah, we forget our oath to be righteous. And now we're just completely immersed in the klipa, the klipotic forces, right? And oh, this is reality. Oh, and oh, Hashem doesn't exist, heaven forbid. That people say that, like, oh, I can't feel him or I can't see him, and they're completely that's lost. That's why they're called the Umot Ha'olam, the people of the concealment, the people of the world. Ha'olam can be read Helam, the Umot Helam, the people of concealment, because this world is completely conceals Hashem almost, and um, it takes a level of bittul, of asking ma, what. The Hebrew word for what is ma, to ask what is this, what, why. You have to ask the question, and that koach ma, the asking of the question, allows you, it opens the space for you to receive chokhmah, wisdom. And that's why they're called Hasidei Umot Ha'olam. Or excuse me, that's not why they're called, but that's why Hasidei Umot Ha'olam, the kind ones of the peoples of the world, they see the chesed, they see kindness, and they ask why. And then it can open up them to for that question of godliness. Well, who is God? What is God? And it's those beginnings of questions within the non-Jewish world, particularly, that help you receive a portion in the world to come, because that's the beginning from your perspective of your walk with Hashem. And that beginning of the walk can happen in any level of your service, even if it's in avodah zarah, in that concealment, those things that you learned after birth, all those lies and things. But why? Why do you receive a portion in the world to come, even though you're in that avodah zarah? Is because you have some kind of element of bittul to ask why, and it's that bittul, that element, that little part of yourself or big whatever. It's up to Hashem to judge what portion you have, but that's what connects you with the world to come. That's what connects you is bittul. And that's why in Hasidus it says that the Hasidei Emoto Alam have an element of bittul, and therefore they receive a portion of the world to come. So this is very shy, pertinent, connected with the walk of the non-Jew, and it's very important to know this. And I don't think anybody else is really teaching that. And why is it important? Because it puts the kibosh on anti-Semitism. It puts the kibosh on people hating the Torah. When people start to teach and realize what we're talking about here, this is huge. This is literally and spiritually earth shattering. It shatters the concealment. And what it spreads is, God willing, I'd like to think, this Ein Sof light. So it's very, very shy, very, very pertinent for non-Jews to study this in Hasidus. Um, and allows us to get past this face. In other words, it's said eye. A lot of people translate ein ba'ain as eye to eye, and even I catch myself sometimes thinking like, oh, I mean, it's like eye to eye, like I'm gonna, you're gonna see Hashem eye to eye. No, it appears to me that it's eye in eye. In other words, your will, you have to have bittul of your will to unite with the will of Hashem. Hashem's will takes over, and his will becomes your will. It's like
You see what he sees.
exactly, yes, exactly. If he was encapsulated within the world of Asiya, you are seeing what he's seeing, and vice versa, and you are enclothing this Ein Sof light in here in the world of physicality, in the world of action. Um, it's really amazing, and this is I deeply believe this is where we need to be. And if we all see things that way, the world will be such an amazing place. It is an amazing place, but it's the perception of it being an amazing place. So, alrighty, let's see here. Um, Yeah, for in a mitzvah, there is no concealment of that countenance, that face. You're literally united beyond the face. Whatsoever to hide his light, preventing the object from being absorbed in this light. As stated earlier, wherever the Ein Sof light stands revealed, there is no separation from Hashem. Everything is united with his light. In this case, the object with which the mitzvah representing revelation of the will and light of the Ein Sof is performed. I'm not trying to rag on Christianity. Like I said, there's good things we mentioned, but if you keep on trying to do the face-to-face thing, uh, particularly like with Jesus or whatever, or any kind of avodah zarah, you're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do the little spoon, big spoon, so to speak. You're going to do this face-to-face thing, and you're not going to have the bittul, because you're going to constantly see yourself. You're going to constantly have self, and then there's Hashem way over here. You can't have that sense of self like that, and then Hashem's over here. You have to have the sense of Hashem and I are one here in the world of Asiya. How do I do that? Through Torah and mitzvahs. Thus far, the Alter Rebbe has discussed the effect of mitzvah on the object. Did I read this? Now, on the objects used in the performance. Example, the esrog, the parchment used for tefillin, etc. He now discusses its effect on the power of a Yisrael's animal soul as applied to the mitzvah. This soul, like the aforementioned objects, derive its vitality from klipat noga, and like them, it experiences a similar elevation to the realm of holiness whenever it is used in the service of a mitzvah. Being absorbed into the divine will, absorbed. That's excellent. Maybe that's a good example of a good translation of bittul, absorption, because you're
It's an interesting,
dissolving.
it's an interesting one.
Yeah, you're dissolving your will and absorbing it into Hashem's will. Something that's actually pretty good.
Oh, I was looking up that, James, the definition of mental, something to be, easily explainable. And one term is self-transcendence.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
That I think that's one of the best descriptions of it.
that is
And
good.
once you really understand what that means, and see how, and then connect the identity of Bittel into that, and you can see it very, very clearly.
That's excellent. That's a good find, Russell. Self-transcendence. You're transcending yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's actually really good. I'll have to, I'm gonna have to write that down.
Yeah, because you get asked that question so many times, and then you have to go, you have to define it with such a big statement when really, it's self-transcendence. And then, that if a person really should look into the meaning of that word to understand the dynamics of Bittul.
Right. That's excellent. Very good. Um, so you're being absorbed into the divine will represented by the mitzvah. In the Alter Rebbe's words, similarly, the power of the vitalizing animal soul clothed in the bodily limbs of a person, man, here he goes again. Like the Alter Rebbe is writing like exactly what we were just talking about. Isn't that amazing? Like that is so cool. Um, Similarly, the power of the vitalizing animal soul clothed in the bodily limbs of a person who performs a mitzvah likewise clothes itself in the deed of the mitzvah. Or the work of the mitzvah. So, okay, why do I want to say Asiya here? Because we live in, like, this is the world of action, the world of Asiya. So, uh, the deed of the mitzvah, it doesn't kind of pierce me here. It's like, okay, what does that mean? Um, uh, your animal soul, in other words, your nefesh behemoth, your animal soul, is enclothing itself properly here in the world of Asiya when you are doing a mitzvah. That portion, that limb. And who do we know that has all their limbs doing mitzvahs? It's Yisrael, or at least the Yisrael that's doing the mitzvahs, right? This is a big deal. Thereby it ascends from the klipa to be absorbed in the holiness of the mitzvah, which is his will and is nullified within the blessed Ein Sof light. Oh, look, Bittel. See? Very cool. See, I just love going to the Hebrew because it's like, oh yeah, you're starting to learn the deeper aspects of the Hebrew to the point where you can't really do the translation, which was the problem to begin with. So you have to map. Once you start to map and you start to develop the actual internal wisdom that you can connect it to the words in the Hebrew. And then once you connect it to the words in the Hebrew, then you have the wisdom in the Hebrew. You know the wisdom of these words now. And it takes a lot of effort. And I'm not saying I know these words all or anything. I'm just saying from the little that I do know, I feel confident in saying those that.
So it's Vittel and not Bittel.
It's bitul, not a.
This is a root word. This is a different form of bittel. A
Oh,
different form of the word bittel. This is batel, ubatel, which I don't know. It could be
Just
changed
context
because of a
how the
vowel.
vowels change around in the context
Yeah,
of the sentence. So the vowels will change.
right. Same root
yeah,
word.
it's not doesn't have a dagesh in it, so it's not a B sound, it's a B sound.
Yes,
The
Uh,
what?
it doesn't have a dagesh in it, so it's not a B sound.
that's true. That's yeah.
True.
Teresa's yeah. It's the same root word though. I
Okay.
should
Okay.
maybe I should have said that. Would you agree with that? It's the same root, right?
Yes, because
Okay.
you were saying that there's Vittel, and so
You're
I was
right.
thinking that was the word itself.
You're exactly right. I was not being deep. I wasn't being accurate. Very good, Teresa. Thank you.
She'll keep you straight.
Good for.
No,
Oh yeah. No, I love it. Yeah,
keep myself
I
straight.
it's
Yeah.
hilarious because
Yeah.
I do that here at home and my wife's or I go, "Oh my goodness, come on." And I just have some kind of hang up where I cannot I have a hard time with social cues and just like reading people and I'm very
Yes, he
focused.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot, a lot, a lot.
That's the way he
That's
has you, Daniel.
yeah. And so like, I look past in my life and it's like, oh yeah, I remember like my friends be like, oh my goodness. And it's like I can't understand it either way. I can't understand it anyway. It's like that's why I have a hard time with like uh people being too facetious and the like. But anyways, yes, so that's rude mental.
But
Um
we have a hard time with, there's English and then there's Texan, and then there's Ashkenazi and the
so
Sephardic,
far,
and
yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are getting into your Hebrew grammar. That's really good. Yeah, I love the I
that's
enjoy the correction. Oh, let's hear. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to say that those mitzvot involving speech alone likewise affect this elevation of the animal soul. Even though here the animal soul's power is not brought to bear in the performance of any mitzvot. So I guess he's assuming of action. We're going over time. I think we probably need to stop. People are starting dropping off here. So let's read this and then we'll call it a evening. Even in the case of such mitzvot as Torah study, reciting the Shema, prayer, and the like, the animal soul's power is elevated to holiness, although they do not involve an actual physical action which is under the dominion of the klipat noga. Yet it is an accepted principle that though that thought is not a substitute for speech, and one does not fulfill his duty of Torah study, prayer, etc., unless he actually utters the words with his lips.
that's a big deal right there. We in one of my classes this week, Dixie and I were in a class, and she was talking about how uh you have to bring it alive when you're studying and say it out loud so that you can remember it, or easier to bring it to memory.
Oh, interesting.
Because
Very
you're
good.
absorbing it and you're hearing it. You're not only thinking it with your mind, you're hearing it.
So it's like involving all your faculties of your brain.
Yes.
Oh, that's excellent.
That's exactly what you said, wasn't it, Teresa? Involving all your faculties.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mhm.
Mm, that's very good. That's excellent. That's very good. I'll have to think about that more.
And,
Well,
and it,
good. Oh, go
it
ahead.
makes sense because you can be reading it silently and your mind can be somewhere else too, or at least mine.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so if I'm concentrating and saying it out loud, then I'm
Using all your neurons,
yes. Uh-huh.
your speech section of your brain as well. Excellent. That's really good.
I
That is
noticed
really
that
good.
I was paying attention, especially when I was praying. Um, if I was saying it out loud, it was more my mind couldn't disappear wonder from me. Where if I was kind of just not saying it out loud, then my mind every now and then would slip and I'd have to grab it back.
Mhm.
And so it was awesome. What she said is, we need to make it vocal to get more out of it.
Excellent points.
Yeah. And also, Dixie, to go back to what your question there in the beginning, how do you know when when things are doing right or going right or whatever? And it says, so there's and this is under research in Biddle, Haish, nullification of the ego, which is, it's basically one of the definitions what it talks about is doing mitzvahs or learning Torah despite not feeling inspired out of commitment to God. So even when you don't feel like it, but you go ahead and go through it, that's bittul.
That's awesome,
Because
Russell.
because you're leaving yourself is not involved in it anymore. It's like for the sake of heaven, what we would call, maybe for the sake of heaven. I don't feel like, counting the Omer tonight, but I'm going to do it anyway. But not besides Teresa wouldn't make me, but even if I did, even if I didn't, I would do it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Because,
your emotions, you're putting your emotions aside.
yeah,
well, this is awesome because that's exactly what she's teaching. Nullify our ego, and that's exactly what you're saying with this Biddle. I mean, this is just confirmation of what Teresa and I are learning. Plus, all this is, it's just wow.
Oh,
Thanks.
man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome when you can go from class to class, teacher to teacher, and everybody's saying the same thing.
Isn't that cool?
In a sense.
Yeah. Well, see, one of the things I looked at here was I looked at Biddle through the Baal HaShulam, his word. What does he? How does he describe Biddle? And this is, some of those ideas that come out of it, because I see such a comparison with Hasidus and their teaching with Baal HaShulam, which is Ashkenazi, but and his teachings, okay. But he's from Israel, he's in the land, but he's still Ashkenazi. So in other words, I see that comparison between the two, and so you try to connect them and search it out, because I knew Bittul was this same thing as nullification of the ego.
And he said it was Bittul Ha'ish, wasn't it? Like it literally Bittul of the man.
Bittul, yeah, and they're calling it, they define it or translate it as nullification of the ego or of the man. That probably little.
I like bit is self. Ha'ish could also mean self. So I really like your translation of self transcendence.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is just, but this is just an extension off of that. You have, your self transcendence where the process of going beyond one's ego is basically the definition of self transcendence. You're going beyond yourself, your ego, your desires, one's self interest in order to connect with something greater. That's self transcendence.
Wow. Do you realize that? And you brought in also Rabbi Ashlag. So we've got three here that we are of the ego that is all into this teaching tonight. This is phenomenal, guys.
Well, that's why I'm saying it. You look at Hasidus, you can make the connection with Hasidus. From what little I know of it so far, is you can make the connection with the Arizal, with the Baal HaShulam, with all these people. It is not a foreign thought or concept.
100%.
It is just a
slightly different language.
It's a little different language. It's a little different. It's the difference between a Yankee talking and somebody from Texas.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good example.
They're all saying the same thing. It just sounds a little different.
Mhm.
And in a way, and I tell you what, one of the greatest eye-opening definitions of Hasidus that I come across, especially from a Kabbalistic standpoint, is that it's the basically it's the work of the Rizal with the sexual innuendos
Taken
taken
out.
out.
Mhm.
That's all because what they said was, from the Hasidus viewpoint, it made people uncomfortable with making so the Baal Shem Tov, took it out because it made people uncomfortable from where in the region he was in the culture he was working in and what no, White Russia or wherever that was, Lithuania,
Mhm.
in that area, and so he just took it out. Where in probably the Sephardi or the Middle Eastern countries where the Rizal was, it wasn't such a big thing, but they still had their, you got to be older, you got to be a grown man, you got to have some sense, you can't, in order to learn Kabbalah anyway. But this right here, what Hasidus did, in a sense, made it more accessible to more people, and I think that was the purpose of the Baal Shem Tov.
Mhm.
Is his idea was to bring this information to people, make it more comfortable to deliver it to them, and for them to handle it, talk about it, articulate it, and that's the definition of Hasidus. It's just it's Torah at that level. It's not a deflated Torah. It's not an elevated Torah. It is still straight Torah from all the sages, just presented in a way to where it's easily articulated between one another. You don't have to be sitting in a cave, talking to somebody, it's got sense, you know.
Yeah, that's very good.
Okay, I'm off my little soapbox there with that.
Oh no, that was great. I love it. That's good. Would anybody like to include anything?
I just thank God. This has been a godsend teaching, because I have just dealings with somebody today that needs to hear this and pray it changes their life.
Oh, well, I'll upload it as fast as I can.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dixie. I appreciate that. And Ernestine and my wife and Lisa and Russell and Teresa, thank you guys for
Okay.
joining us today. I really appreciate it. I look forward to it every week. So it sounds a
Thank
little
you.
selfish, but
Thank you, James.
yeah, I really care about you guys and appreciate you guys all for being here. So thank you. Thank you, Ernestine.
You're welcome.
All righty, guys. God willing, see you all next week, and I'll have these videos uploaded. So,
Amen.